All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm going to take my mask off for just a minute so that people on Zoom can hear me. But thank you all for coming today, both in person and virtually. My name is Erica Barker. I'm the curatorial manager here at the museum. I'm also president of the board of AAME. So I'm very excited that this program worked out with a mutually beneficial program between the museum and AAME, which is the Arts Alliance Mountain Empire, for those of you who aren't familiar. After the program, after the discussion, for those of you who are here in person, we will be doing a curator-led tour of the exhibit. This discussion ties into our special exhibit at the museum. It's a Smithsonian exhibit called The Way We Worked. It's about work history in America over the past 150 years. And we wanted to showcase how art is work and is often overlooked as work, and talk to some real working artists about their experience and kind of dig into that a little bit more. So I hope you enjoy it. Richard Greaves is going to take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Oh, sorry. Wait, one more thing. If you are logged in on Zoom, we do ask that you remain on mute during the discussion. If you have any comments or questions, there will be time at the end for that. I'll be monitoring the chat. So just put anything into the chat and we'll read it out at the end.
Thank you, Erica. As she said, my name is Richard Graves. I'm an artist and an illustrator from Abingdon, Virginia, and I'm really excited. I feel like we have a pretty wide range of topics that I wanted to cover in the next hour or so, and our panelists all have such wonderful experience and perspectives on what work, art as work means. So I want to have this pretty informal, and we want to get into some open discussion. I figured we'd start off by kind of just asking the panelists to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about the work you do in this area and the forms that takes, so we can have a little context on how you answer any other questions. Now we'll start with you and go down the line. We'll get a little more looser, open discussion as we get settled in.
Sure, thank you. Thanks to AAME and Birthplace of Country Music for organizing this lecture. I think for the community to understand what artists do is vital. And I think this opportunity is wonderful. And I love the hybrid format too. Kudos on that. My name is Val Lyle. I was actually born in Johnson City, 20 miles from here. And the joke was that it took me about 30 years to get here. So I took the scenic route. I went to school at Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida, and got my formal training there as a sculptor and as an artist. Growing up in my family, there was not a lot of support to be an artist. They always said it would be a lovely hobby. And so if I had any regrets, it was waiting too long to get on my path. I was doing artwork to pay for my studies I was studying chemical engineering. That was my plan, to go work at Kingsport. But I couldn't pass algebra. But I was doing really good in all the other chemistry. I was taking these very advanced classes and all that, and they were like, we can't let you take any more. Because I could visualize chemicals and elements and how they would change and how they would write a problem down, and I could visualize the answer. So I was taking classes way beyond, and they were just like, we can't let you take any more until you pass algebra, So that saved my career as an artist. I couldn't pass algebra. I worked a lot of different jobs. I tried. I'm a terrible waitress. I can't flip burgers, so I had to do this. It really wasn't a choice for me. It is my passion, and my route to where I am now. I tried to do a lot of crafts. I really wanted to be a maker at Penland or something. And I tried to do a lot of the make items under $50 for impulse buys, when the market crashed and all that. I just, you can't make enough things under $50 to support yourself. You just can't. There's not enough time in the day. So I switched to, I just thought it through that, well, it's not that there's no money. It's where the money is. And I just thought it through logically that when they build new buildings or when they, that there are groups and people who have plenty of money. So I actually turned it upside down. All the advice I was getting was make cheaper, smaller things to sell more. But I just turned it around in my head. And my training was actually in bronze. And being able to work in this area, being a bronze sculptor, there's not too many of us. So it actually worked in my favor.
Well, we're definitely one of the topics for later on is specific to this kind of region of how that, how that work manifests. So we'll get into a lot more. I feel like it's hard kind of asking folks to put their career in 5 minutes, but we'll talk about, a lot of the adjacent parts of that too as we go on. Leanne?
Okay. I'm Leanne Agee, and I am a muralist by trade. But a few years ago, I created a character called Moonbound Girl, and I got a book deal at an art show. And the characters are all about finding your inner passion, which is what we all have done. And it's about finding what makes your hair stand on end. So it's little girls that have their hair in the air and have found that thing they love, and they're shooting for the moon. So they're called Moonbound Girls. But I still do murals. And I started my business in 1989, having no idea I was starting a business, have no training. I'm self-taught. I did not go to art school, not recommended. And I just got opportunities, and that is how I got on this path. I got laid off from my job that I hated. And so that was a big deal. At the time, I thought, oh, I have no idea what I'm going to do. But a couple of weeks before, the president of the company, which was General Shilbrick in Johnson City, I was the financial secretary, which I'm horrible at that. And they were glad to lose me. And the president called me up, and he said, I had done a bunch of paintings for my mother's new house, and they had seen some of my work. And he called me up and said, did you do these paintings? I said, yeah. And he said, I want to hire you. And I was like, what? And I think I charged him what it cost to frame them. And I was so thrilled. And then somebody from that same job brought me a cabinet door and said, I want you to paint leaves on this cabinet door. I went, okay. And I took it to my mom's and said, I'm painting this cabinet door. She said, you can't just paint on people's furniture. How do you know how? I'm like, I don't know how. I'm just going to do it. And so it kind of was an accidental thing that I got into. But I then got somebody to ask me to do a nursery for them and paint a mural on the wall. And that got the same response. I got home and said, somebody asked me to do a mural. Mom's like, how do you know how? I'm like, I don't. I'm just going to do it. And my sweet old daddy built me a little box that I could carry 50 colors of little craft paints in. And I carried my little box in there, and I did it. And so that's how it started in 89. I've painted over 1,000 murals in 6 states, and having no idea what I was doing. And I still can't believe it. So I didn't believe it then. I would go to meetings thinking, you're going to hire me? And I still kind of do that. I'm still kind of in shock about the whole thing. But I love it. And I've had great opportunities. And I think that's one of the things is opportunities to get to work.
Absolutely. That's definitely something we'll also continue to touch on as we go through. Thank you. Eugene?
Hi, folks. I'm Eugene Wolf, and I guess I call myself a performer. I earned my first paycheck when I was 2. I won my talent contest at the Capitol Theater in Greenville at 2. because let me start. As many of you may know, that I was inspired to perform by the Valleydale Pigs.
Oh.
And they really did inspire me. And my grandmother saw me and said, "Oh, you're going to be a performer." And so I am. 65 years later, I'm still doing the same thing. And I do know the Valleydale Pig song if anybody wants to hear it. But anyway, so I continued, I could sing, I could act like a fool, which I'm still doing. But I went off, did plays in high school. I did those kinds of things. I got in the band, I played clarinet. I liked music. I liked performing, and so I went off to college on a music scholarship. And then I realized that what I really wanted to do was get up and act like a fool, so I changed to the theater department. And I did not graduate. The way I put it is I attended the University of Tennessee. But then I got my second job. I was paid to do a TV show called Nashville 99, a CBS television cop show. I was one of the first in a series of murders that gave them something to do for an hour, find out who's killing people. And so then I realized that I needed to really make money. So I worked for a record shop for 7 years, record bar. And then a friend of mine who was my soulmate in college said, "Eugene, will you come to Nashville and audition for a show?" So I got my first professional show in 1980 at the Barn Dinner Theater in Nashville, Tennessee. And oddly enough, my first professional show was Hair. So then I learned to sink or swim in dinner theater for about 2.5 years. They would hire me because I was young but looked old. And I wouldn't burn the Barn Dinner Theater down at night because they put us up. So anyway, that's how I kind of kept working for a while. Then I found the Road Company in Johnson City, Tennessee, where they found me and called and said, "Will you come work?" I was there for 16 years, a professional ensemble. We toured around the country, writing our own shows about East Tennessee and what it was like to grow up here. We took one of our shows to Russia, to Bashkiria. We were the first American artists to visit the country of Bashkiria, which is north of Kazakhstan, which is in the news right now. And then the Road Company, we said bye-bye. We said, "We're done." And the Barter Theater said, "Will you come here?" So I've been there for 24 years. And so also in that time, I started a band called the Brother Boys. And we started 35 years ago. We just made our first album in 25 years. That will be out in about a week, everybody. I know I'll promote that later. But at any rate, I feel like one of the most fortunate people on earth because I am 67 years old and people pay me to act like a fool. So what better is there on this earth? All right, there you go. Yeah.
Shalonda.
Okay, well, I'm Shalonda Fitzgerald, and I'm going to speak really loud and try to be distinct because I'm keeping my mask on just because I teach a lot of little kids, and I'm trying to be extra COVID safe. So forgive the mask.
Thank you.
But anyway, I'm a cellist, and I'm a freelance cellist, which means I do whatever music. I just piece together a profession from many different things that musicians do. I play in 3 orchestras. So I play in an orchestra, the Johnson City Symphony. I play in Symphony of the Mountains, which is based out of Kingsport. And I play in the Asheville Symphony, which is in North Carolina. So everything's within an hour. I mean, it's kind of nice. It was surprising that the region would have so many orchestras within a small range. But so I play for 3 orchestras. I play for 2 chamber music groups. So one's called the Paramount Chamber Players. And we do performances at the Paramount Center, at Sinking Springs in Abingdon, at Kingsport Presbyterian and Kingsport, and at St. John's Episcopal in Johnson City. So we get around with that group, and the other chamber music group I play with is connected with Johnson City Symphony, and that's we were a quartet, but now we're a trio because we lost one of our members. Not that way, but she moved out of town, and so chamber music. I play chamber music. I also teach at Milligan College, or it's Milligan University now. And I teach private cello, or teach cello lessons there. And also I coach the student quartet there. What else do I do? I play wedding gigs, reception gigs with various groups around just pickup groups around the area. I play in churches for church services, things like that. I teach private students. So I've taught anywhere from age 4 to my oldest student was 89, believe it or not. He only took a few, he brought his nurse with him. So he had an assistant to help him get around. And he started cello because he was playing violin, but broke his collarbone. So he had to switch to cello. But this guy, 89, and he's out there just doing it. It shows you the power and the appeal of playing music and playing an instrument and just doing it. And let's see, what else can I say? Oh, my training was I started playing cello in middle school when I heard a quartet came around recruiting instruments for the school orchestra. And so this quartet was there playing, I think it had to be Mozart. Because Mozart, if you hear Mozart, the cello part is pretty easy. You're just going boom, 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 boom. The first violinist is going crazy. Second violinist, now the cellist is going boom, 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 boom. So I wasn't much of I guess I was a perfectionist, but I was a realist too. So I thought, I can handle just doing boom, 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 even though it's bigger than I am. I can handle that. So I started on cello, and then later I found out that we play other things too, and it's actually it gets more difficult. But so I started that way and just kept playing it because I love music so much. And when it came time to go to college, it was, I really didn't even think of it as a profession. I just thought, if I major in music, it's a way I can continue to play music and get better at music. So I got my undergraduate, I got my graduate degree, and then you're out in the world. Okay, how can I make a living out of this thing that I love? And so I was just kind of lost. And then I got into other things. So I got into computer graphics, because back in the late 80s, that was when the whole computers were starting. So the whole Macintoshes and things like that. My husband was into computers. He said, you got to try it. So it was another creative outlet, because I was working on computers. I was doing graphic production, graphic design on computers. Did that for 17 years in San Francisco. And then my husband got a job at ETSU in the digital media. And so now here I am. I've left San Francisco. I was working for a big corporation in the marketing department of Gap Inc. And I have this job. And then we moved to Clop. We're in the middle of East Tennessee. And there's just nothing for, I tried. There's nothing for a graphic production artist here. And so I thought, I still have my cello. I could go back to it. I'm going to dust it off. Had to learn how to play the cello again, because I hadn't played it much for 17 years. And that was painful, because I had to work back up almost from scratch. it came a little faster because I knew what I was doing from school and everything. So I built myself back up slowly, started to play in public again after I had worked on it for about two years. Started teaching because I took over a studio of a cellist that was kind of funny. She said, "Oh, can you teach my students while I'm gone?" And I said, "Sure, I'll teach your students while you're gone." And she never came back. So, built-in studio, took some Suzuki method classes, just kept learning and growing, and joined orchestras and joined chamber music groups, and now here I am, and I'm just so glad I came back to music. It's still 2003 was when I came back, and it seems like a long time ago, but really in a musician's career, it's not a very long time from 2003 to here. And so everything is fresh and new and I'm still growing, and musicians always grow. I mean, we're never done. That's the thing about artists is everything's always new and fresh, and you're always looking for better ways to do things and improving yourself. And so that's especially true for me, even though 60. Even though I'm 60 now, it's still, everything is just still fresh and new, and it's just a great job. It's a great profession.
That's wonderful to hear. I like how everyone's story kind of, I don't think anyone's really illustrated a point A to point B, a straight line of, everything going to plan. So I see that as a very common thread through the stories. And this question I wanted to jump into, and I think we can kind of get into a little more open discussion. So feel free.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? We're getting the glare from the projector screen. So since we're done with the pictures, I'm going to erase it real quick. If you can just hang on one.
Oh. I would have fallen out.
Cool. Well, taken care of. But yeah, I think we can get a little bit out of or more into the open discussion. But this first topic is kind of the meat and bones for me. You all touched on it a little bit, but I want to kind of ask you all about the why and take that why however you'd like to. But like, how did you first develop your passion, your creative practice? And then was that the same time you thought to yourself, I want to do it professionally? Did that come later? But I want to hear about the kind of more why, the more internal compulsion to create. Was that there? Was it a job choice? What was going through your mind kind of in terms of how you thought about this is the art, this is what I want to do, but also I need to make a career out of this? What was that process like for you all? If anyone wants to kind of just jump in again, take that, the specifics of that one, however you'd like.
I'll start. The passion part of it. Like, I knew I loved music. I knew I loved acting, having fun, acting. But when I was in high school, there was a professor at Tusculum College at the time, named Dr. Ruth Thomas, who put together something called the Greater Greenville Chorale, Greenville, Tennessee. And she had 4 sopranos, tenors, basses. She had 16 people. And there were 2 of us from the high school that were asked to join. And we sang choral music that was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It was sophisticated choral music. And this woman, Dr. Ruth Thomas, was the most passionate musician, performer that I had ever seen. She instilled in me this love to show what passion can create. And so she was the person for me who made me understand that doing this is not just for laughs or not just for fun, but that it changes something inside me. when I do it. When we would sing these beautiful songs, there was something, suddenly I could go outside my parameters. I could go outside my body almost and live in other worlds that weren't in Greene County, Tennessee. So I have to say for that, she's the one that sparked for me the passion part of it.
For me, I was in elementary school, and I obviously didn't know that you could be an artist for a profession. I never had thought of anything as a profession. I was 6, but I was taken care of for a while, and so I didn't have to worry about that. But I knew that if I saw a box of crayons and construction paper and scissors and paint and brushes, that I loved it. And I don't even know if I knew what to do with it, because I didn't have a chance except during art class at school or at home or something. And I was just, I never thought of it as being an artist. I think I just loved all that creativity part of it. And so in 5th grade, I don't know how old you are in 5th grade. What is it? 10? 11, I don't know. Anyway, this girl named, it's funny that you remember the person's name, Cheryl Sigmund. I've never seen her since, but she was the daughter of a teacher that got hired to paint these little murals over top of each classroom in our elementary school. And I would walk by in total mesmerized amazement that she was doing this. And she would just make up a little scene for each room. And I thought, what a dream. How did she get to do that? How do you get to do something like that? And I just thought it was the most amazing thing. And I remember even watching the electric company. This is crazy, but there's a little segment of that show where a little guy would run around in an overcoat, and he would look around and he would paint a number on a door and change the whole thing. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. I thought, I want to paint numbers. I don't know. But I knew that. So it was later when I was 18, I got a job at a art gallery, and I became aware of artists that were making a living like T. Buckley Moss. And I thought, now that I want to do this. I just don't know what to do. So I don't think it was because I had talent or anything like that made me go there. It was opportunity. I think that I got to do the things, and it made me better because I got the opportunities. But just because that guy asked me to paint those paintings, and my mom let me paint them, and I got to do it. And I think when I got to do it, I didn't want to do anything else. So the why for me is that once I got a taste of that, I didn't want to do anything else. And I couldn't think of a single thing in school to take. I went to ETSU for a semester, and everybody's picking things to be. And I'm like, I hate everything. I don't want to be any of this stuff. And I took like basic stuff, trying to put off the choice of what to be. And it didn't make sense for me, but I'm sure I would have learned a lot in art school, but I didn't know what I was going to be at the time. But then when I was 23, I got to do my first mural, and I never stopped after that. So I kind of fell in and kept going.
Schools.
I did.
Hospital.
Yeah, I did. That was later, though.
Just
It's my mom. She's my biggest fan.
Why don't you go next, and we'll end with you, because I want to ask a little bit more about the education from your perspective and the current students. So Val, do you want to jump in?
Sure. It's interesting to try and think back about how did I get here. Mm-hmm. My mother, when I was very young, my mother would borrow masterpiece paintings from the library. They would have, a cheap print printed on cardboard, whatever, with a bad frame. And she would exchange them like every month and decorate this very neutral living room with the seasonal colors. And she would rotate out these masterwork, these bad prints and masterwork paintings. And I grew up with that. So I grew up just really living with masterpieces and spending a lot of time looking at them. And of course, in a household, there's no secrets from a child. So I knew where the books on the very top shelf were of Picasso and the collection from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They were well out of the reach of a child, but I could climb. I would get up there and pull those down and look at them, and then climb and put them back to where nobody could see I had touched them. So I was just, those were crazy to me. I would just fall into those paintings. I would just fall into them. So that aspect was there from a very early age. Growing up, I was always doing art. My older brothers were away at school, so I was home. My mother was a writer, so she would close the bedroom door and tap, tap, tap on the typewriter. So I was always making, I was always doing and making. I can't remember not doing that.
It seemed like you kind of grew up in a household that supported that creativity, that you had that around you. At what point did you think, oh, this is going to be a career for me, for that transition for you, Val?
Well, I wouldn't say that the household was supportive of it.
Oh, okay. Fair.
I mean, I was solo and amusing myself. But like I said, they always said that would make a nice career, but get a real job.
Mm-hmm.
My father said that to me after I had my master's in sculpture.
After that's a whole different.
So yeah, so I wouldn't call it a supportive household. He was like, "When are you going to get a real job?" But
so that was something you had to make on your own.
I really had to. Yeah, I really had to push that. But the passion part, like the why part, the feeling it gives me. I mean, time stops when I'm working with oil clay or wet clay. Time stops, and the problem solving. To me, it started out from my math and science brain, which I, on the tests and all that, I'm off the charts with that. But the problem solving, I want to figure things out. I want to understand things. I want to create new things. I want to create things I've never seen before. And I have learned so many processes. I've got so many different sets and kits of everything, of every media, of every, and I have to be careful, because as soon as I really understand something and get really good at it, I lose interest. I want to go try something else, So I'll do a 3-story tall silk painting, and it'll be the first silk painting I've ever done. Because I'm all in. I'm all in once I'm in, but because I'll think of an idea and I think, what's the best way to express that? And how can I get something that big or that with light to show through it? I'll invent a solution, and then I'll go figure out how to do it after the fact. I want the solution first. How close can I get to that? But it was problem solving. Really, it was really just my brain wanting to be tickled, and art, tickles it through the back of my eyeballs. Mm-hmm. Geez, right here, I can feel it right now.
I think there's a lot of resonating with this. Thank you, Shalon. I was interested in your answer, but both in your answer and as you see in the students you teach and work with. So I feel like you have to kind of speak to both of those, if you don't mind.
Okay, so the passion in my students and in the, or
Yeah, well, I want to know how you personally kind of found that passion and decided to turn it into a career, but also how you see that manifesting since you work in education now, how you see that with the students you work with. I wanted to know your story, how it for you first.
okay, so you already know that I did get my master's and then I kind of strayed. I went into graphic design and then came back to music. So in listening and thinking, I never realized this, but as I was learning to play the cello and did the undergraduate and the graduate work, the challenges and the problem solving and working things out and getting better and refining things, it was all that was fun and interesting. Trying to do new things and then working on it and figuring out how to work on it and then succeeding. Okay, what's the next thing? What's the next challenge? And it was all very inward. It was inward gratification, I just love playing this. Oh, makes me feel so wonderful. When I came back in 2003, it was all about, once I got my chops back, it was all about sharing it. So sharing the passion with the audiences and with my students. And that part of it is what is really meaningful and important to me now. Teaching is just the most wonderful thing in the world. When you, I think when you have a student who really you show them how to do something. You go, oh, let's try this. Something that they haven't done before, some technique or something. And you can tell in their eyes, they're going, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. And some of them I've even had students break down and don't even want to try it because they're afraid of failing. And just the challenge of breaking it down and convincing them that they can do it. I mean, I'm here to help you do it. If you can't do it now, I can break, it's my job to break it down so small that you can achieve and you can build it up. And when they do it, it's just the best feeling in the world. And when they, especially when they're surprised, when they try, it's like, I can't do this. You work, and then, wow, if they're surprised, if they really, truly in their heart did not think they could do it. And so it's sharing the passion that I have, that I feel, it's great to be able to have the job and the work. That's my work, is to share my passion and spread it out. And audiences, sharing your passion to the audiences. I'm sharing my interpretation of the music. I'm someone, and I'm sorry I can't give the credit, but I mentioned that it's like you're channeling the composer. The composer, you're doing this, you're giving your interpretation of this great composer's work. And so, but it's the sharing of that with the audience. And when an audience member comes and talks to me afterwards and they say something like, I don't know, I've talked to people who are clearly touched by something I play. And that is just a wonderful feeling. And that feedback, which is why the COVID pandemic situation was so terrible, is because musicians everywhere are just, they're not getting that feedback. And that's a big part of why we do it. As far as making a living at doing it, it seems to me that if you're passionate about something, you have to do it. And so if you have to do it anyway, and you have to survive and you have to live, you're gonna find a way to, make it work, whether it's getting a real job and doing your passion on the side, or, you know, finding some way to be able to incorporate your passion into your work, into how you make your living. So.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And I guess that kind of takes the question and, draws that line of maybe those two don't necessarily need to be connected, and sometimes are the work and the art. So that's an interesting question. I'm seeing how quickly we're going through time, which is a lot faster than I was expecting. I want to make sure we have time for other people's questions. So I'm thinking I'll maybe throw out another big discussion question, and then we'll just pause and see what questions people have online and in the audience. Then I can ask another one, or we can take questions from other folks. But one I wanted to make absolutely sure we got you all to comment on is the where and this region. How does working in this region, creating in this region, impact your career and the people around you? And I'm kind of looking to hear both the obstacles of being an artist in the region, but what are the benefits too? How is your kind of workflow changed? And as we as art supporters and artists and art institutions are trying to imagine what arts are going to look like in this region a year from now, 5 years, 10 years, a generation from now, what do you all want to see to the area grow to better support you and the work yourself and others like you are doing in those fields? So I know that's a whole lot, but I definitely wanted to make sure we all heard from you all touching on that place, working in Southwest Virginia, East Tennessee, what that means to you all and how it manifests. So I'll throw that out there and let whoever wants to jump in first go for it.
Can I go?
Yeah. Now you sound ready. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. I was born in Johnson City. I lived all over the place. Hawaii, New York City for almost 10 years. Florida, Arizona. When I grew up here, I couldn't wait to get out of here. I really thought I knew there was a world out there, and I was willing to lose digits to go see it. I was like, and then I traveled all over. I saw, and then the more I was gone, the more I saw, the more I loved where I came from. I wanted to get back to my mountains, my home. So I think I've heard that story from other people too, that really sometimes you have to leave to appreciate what you have. I've come from like 7 generations, 5 different ways within 30 miles of here. It's easier to see people, I think. I mean, I lived in a big city. I lived in New York. But when I first saw people actually doing, when I was small, I thought all artists were dead. I didn't know there were living artists. And then I hung out at a comic book store and saw them doing graphic novels. That was like one of my early experiences. That was in Knoxville. And then I was fortunate enough to have 3 women sculpture teachers. And that was profound to me. I'm sure if all my sculpture teachers had been male, that it would not have had a profound effect on me. But I had 3 women in my college training, or actually 4. So that was profound. But mid-career, and I'm interested, and I'm 62. Hey, mid-career, I did a change, and it was the early part of my career was art school based, and it was all, blood and guts, and how deep can you, and you'll be rewarded if you just bleed all over your canvases, and and the more blood you bleed and the more guts, then the more that you will be revered. And there was like no business classes. There was no. So, the first part of my career, I was in New York. I was doing very contemporary, very avant-garde. And then when I moved back here to Bristol about 25 years ago, 27, there really wasn't a market for the kind of work that I was doing in New York City. I mean, there just wasn't a market. And so, you have to figure out some way to make money. You have to figure out something that'll sell, some way to support yourself. So I did adjunct teaching for a while. And it seemed like, the deal was, well, you're not a real artist. If you're a woman and you're married, you're not a real artist because surely you're being supported in some way. And you're not a real artist if you have a day job. And, and I just hate those. If you go back through history, a whole bunch of artists had all kinds of jobs, but when I moved back here, looking around, trying to figure it out, the sculpture, the public sculpture was just really worked out for me. The life-size bronzes and my attitude about art changed. Instead of trying to get customers to understand my deepest psyche, by golly, I came around to a place where I can be your conduit. I'm a professionally trained artist. I'm here to help you manifest your vision. Let me help you let me help you create what you want to. Let me help create a sense of homage to a person or a place or an event that's permanent, that'll last longer than you and me both, and let me give to the community. And it was just a radical difference from where I started out being as an artist. Just complete difference. And let me be your servant. I'm trained to do that. I would be honored to please give me. That would be fantastic if I could have a contract with you. I would do my very best. Did I stick to the question?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it was a very loaded question. I think I very much got a sense that your career changed when you moved back here from the work you were doing and kind of why that was. So it seems like that kind of that change in workflow was reflective of both the obstacles and the opportunities here, where you changed your work both to kind of do something that would fit better than what you were doing in another area, but also something that worked for the culture of this. Am I understand that correctly?
I think that would be accurate.
Very, very cool. The region is a lot to talk about. Someone else want to jump in there on that topic, man?
Well, Bristol's been great to me because, I was born and raised in Bristol. My family's right there. And I left for about 20 years. And when I came back, it got really cool here. It was not cool when I lived here. Back in the day, they didn't have all this great, I guess I didn't really understand the history of Bristol and all that. And so now that I have been back, I felt very supported by the community with being able to do mural work. And then also because of my Moonbound Girl series, I got the museum has been very supportive of my work because it's about inner passion and music. And music is my other passion. So I got to do my book reading here, and I got to do a poster for the Rhythm and Roots Festival. That was in 2016, which was a big honor. And then I got asked to do a series of work celebrating the Bristol Sessions history for the hotel Bristol Sessions. So all those rooms have my paintings in them. So that was really exciting for me. And we do the Rhythm and Roots show every year, or we have a booth there, and people are very supportive. And so I feel like it's a family here for me and home, and always has been. I went to Nashville for the 20 years, and it was a really cool experience, especially for the music. And I got to do a lot there too, but just to talk about the region here and what it has done for me, I feel like it's been really supportive in a very different way than it was there. But.
And I know you've traveled with that, kind of going back and forth between here and Nashville, and also doing, murals and all kinds of different places. You have a very non-traditional workspace, whether it's traveling to those places or, hanging on the side of a building. I was curious on, it seems like the arts organizations and the history have been a big factor, but have you noticed any other differences as you've traveled of how your art's been received, or kind of any shift of it looking one way because you've been based out of this area, or looking one way because you've traveled so much?
Well, being local here and doing the work that I did a lot of schools and hospitals. And, when your name's on everybody's wall, that led to that was commercial work. Then it led to residential because those kids grow up, have babies. I get to do all the nurseries. And I had a great career here as a muralist. And then when I moved to Nashville, I was scared because I thought, it's a big city to me. It was a big city. And I thought, I don't know if there's going to be competition there. And I didn't know how you would know that. But I got there and I got huge jobs. Like I guess the real estate market, and it's just very different than it is here. I've got to do celebrity work and stuff like that, and create homes, which are multi-million dollar homes, which I didn't do here. But not that they're not here. It's just there are a lot there. There's a lot of them there. And I got to do great work. And when the room you do is decked out to the top of its, that makes your work look better than doing a little room in a little house. I don't care what house it's in, but it does elevate your work if you're in a surrounding where it's elevated, I guess. And so that's a difference. It just seemed like there was a lot more big jobs there.
Yeah.
But I still get work here. I still do work there, but it works good here.
Yeah, well, that's one of the advantages I see as having this area is access to other places, but be able to kind of have a home base, a home community.
Absolutely.
So that makes perfect sense to me. Well, we seem to be going that down the road, so we can keep with that. Eugene, if you wanna jump in on how does this region influence you? How does place influence the work that you do?
Well, like Val, I was ready to get out when I turned 18 too, for a number of reasons. Because I'd heard Petula Clark sing downtown, and I didn't know what that meant coming from Greenville, Tennessee. So, but I wanted to get out. So I left for 10 years thinking, if I'm going to become an actor, if I'm going to become a performer, I'm going to have to get rid of this. I'm going to have to get rid of this East Tennessee talk, this East Tennessee person. And wherever I went to Minnesota, I went to California, I was a novelty wherever I went, which was kind of fun, actually, why not? But then after spending a couple of years in dinner theater, trying to flatten out my diphthongs, I came to the road company in Johnson City, and for 2 weeks, all we did was waller in the floor, kind of, release things. And I started to understand through the work of the road company, which was about honoring and celebrating the place we were in, the dirt, and the dirt I came from. I started to understand that dirt is where my power was, that I am that dirt and I am from it. So I began to understand that that's what I needed to investigate in myself. And that has paid off beautifully for me personally, because it led me to play A.P. Carter in Keep on the Sunny Side, the barter play. And I would never have dreamt that I was going to play A.P. Carter when I was growing up. My grandmother loved the music, but I thought, that old music, good heavens. And that as a kid. And then as I started putting A.P. Carter together, I began to understand that, wait, this is where it is. That's who I am. That is my identity. So place became very important to me. Now, financially, I have been mighty fortunate in that I had a job for 3 years in dinner theater. Then I went directly to the Road Company for 16 years. Then I came to the Barter for 24 years. Now, granted, this wasn't always big money or anything, but I was tied to some finances during that whole time. There were lean times where I waited tables, did all the things that performers do when they can't work, when they can't make the money doing the work. But I'll tell you a story about being from here and understanding how what I do honors place. When I was doing A.P. Carter, when we first started, one afternoon in stage 2 in Barter, the small theater, I kept seeing a little woman over here, and I say a little woman because she was probably in her 90s and she was little. And she had her raincoat on and she had her rain bonnet still on. And she had her pocketbook pulled up tight to her and she had thick cataract glasses. And I kept watching this little woman as I told this, as the story started getting told. And she was mesmerized by, there was the Carter family that she grew up with as a kid. Suddenly they were in front of her, and I watched as this 92-year-old woman became 7 years old again, and so it doesn't matter how much you get paid when you do that, when you understand that that's what's going on. And that's the work. You were talking about sharing. For me, the work is sharing it and getting it back too. Because when you've got a group of people and the thing is working, you can feel the heartbeat of the entire group, and suddenly the entire group becomes one heart. Now, there may be things going through people's heads or whatever, it doesn't matter. The hearts are beating to the same thing. And that in itself is reward enough. And then it's also nice to get a paycheck after that too. But I've been mighty fortunate in being able to be tied to organizations that are about paying the people who work for them when they can. It's been up and down, grants, all kinds of stuff, as BCMA knows, as AAME knows. Grants come and go. And when there's a grant, yay, let's go get French fries. And when there's not, come to my house, let me see if I have a potato. So place for me is what it's all about. And now I get to take our place, I get to take it places and let people see what it is. I got to take my show, the Book of Memo, to DC for 2 weeks and perform it in the middle of talking about work. 3 years ago, it was a cornfield. Now it's 4 30-story residences with a Whole Foods and restaurants. And my little one-man show, the Book of Memo, played on a piece of AstroTurf right in the middle of it, outside. And it didn't matter because it was like a tonic, for this huge, I called it a capitalist eruption. But that's how the art works. It was like wonderful to have that voice, that rural voice in the middle of this place that was trying to hang on to its rural roots. And I feel like I helped it a little bit, So those are the big rewards from doing what we do. So I'm proud of the place because look what we have, and people here understand it. We have these organizations, these 2 organizations that are sponsoring this. We have Barter. We have all sorts of arts organizations that are feeding. We're starting to understand as the world becomes more and more chaotic, we have to have this, because if we don't, we're going to crumble. So this work is the very thing that is holding us together as collective and also individuals. They're keeping our hearts tuned,
So I saw a lot of nods on that point too.
Yeah.
I think that's something that translates across fields and experiences in the arts. I think everyone in this room can relate to like that feeling. I love hearing the story too of wanting to leave this region. That was kind of a common thing of I need to get out, I need to find that opportunities, and then realizing how much of that gets pulled back into the most meaningful parts of the art. And then those stories are shared in AstroTurf in DC or wherever those journeys lead. How has Region played for you? You were another one that had kind of left and come back some.
Well, not really. Not this region. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not one that came from this region, went away, and then came back and realized how great it is here. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and I went to San Francisco after I got married, stayed there for about 17 years. And then I found myself in this corner of this little corner of East Tennessee. And I think before we moved here, it was kind of, I really didn't know what to expect. I had never been here before, but I certainly did not expect there to be 3 orchestras within an hour's drive. I did not expect the barter to be, I just didn't expect so much culture here. Coming from San Francisco, it's just everywhere. And then you come here and you go, I'm in the middle of nowhere. What are we going to do here? And then it was, no, it's rich. It's rich with music. It's rich with culture. It's the birthplace of country music, for Pete's sake. And so, not just, and so, of course, you expect to know that there's country music and there's bluegrass, but also it's rich in the classical music, just everything. I think music is important to people here. It's important to the region. And I think it shows that people appreciate music, whatever music they're into. So that is, I wasn't expecting it to be so rich. And so that's influenced me in that there's places to play. There's, things to do. It's here. Let's see, what else can I say? I don't know.
I was curious too a little bit, and you have the unique experience of being a transplant in a way. What about
outsider?
I wouldn't say that way. How would you say like your creative practice with the music, playing music, did that change at all? Was that influenced besides the actual like venues and opportunities to play? Do you feel like the kind of creativity side for you, that dynamic was different?
I think that the creativity side was just being exposed to different types of music. I grew up listening to some bluegrass. Being Kentucky, we've got country music there too. So I was able to get into that deeper, but I wouldn't say that I had a lot of opportunities to actually play that type of music, or that it's influenced my playing per se that way. But we have, like, groups I have played in, like the Paramount Chamber Players, we have collaborated with composers of the region. So, let's see what I was going to say. We've collaborated with composers. We've collaborated with the different groups, art groups in the region, the ballet groups, so in that way, the collaborations, I think, have been influenced deeply by.
I'm glad you say that. I asked that question a little bit from the lens of my own experience because I'm from Atlanta and I'm a transplant. And that's one of the things I see about this region, Southwest Virginia, East Tennessee, is kind of this collaborative environment. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the arts in this region is kind of that willingness to get together on things, to work on projects together, to have kind of more of a collective experience around the art projects.
And I think the size helps that because it's small. Everybody knows everyone else, and you can have a personal relationship with all the composers of the area because it's an intimate group. People know other people, and so it's.
And still have those opportunities, as you said at the beginning, the venues to play, because what is being feeling the sense of place if you don't have a venue to play in and an opportunity to express yourself and go after the sustainability that you would hope would come in, making a career in the arts. I have plenty more I want to talk to you all about, but I promised I would make sure we had a chance to take questions. Have we been getting stuff coming through online?
We've got 2 questions in Zoom.
Okay. Do you want to throw those out? Are they 2 different ones?
Well, I'll just yell. So our first question it says, do you have any advice for people about how to push through society's or family and friends' idea that you can't make a living from art? How do you accept yourself as an artist even when others don't see it as a way forward?
Yeah, you all catch that. Mm-hmm. Val, you addressed that a little bit. Would you want to expand? That seems pretty online. And when asking the question, we'll ask questions from the audience too. Feel free to direct it to an individual panelist. Or
I can't tell you how many times I was told, "Give it up, don't do it. You'll never make it. It's too hard." A woman sculptor. I can't tell you. I mean thousands of times. I was told to quit, to give it up, and I'm just hard-headed. And you have to be, because this is a very difficult field. I mean, my advice to any aspiring artist is if you have 2 careers to choose from and it's 50-50, don't choose art. It's too hard. I mean, how many nights and days have I spent terrified I'm not going to get my bills or, not make my, don't do it for the money. That's a bad choice. You just made a bad choice. Don't do it for the money or the fame and don't do it if somebody can talk you out of it. If somebody can talk you out of it, you're making a mistake. If you've got any other choice, take it. Take it, because the only way you're going to survive is if it is in your gut. You've got to be stubborn and tenacious and just go. You've just got to have it as something that you cannot give up. And as far as family and friends and all that, I got good advice in art school. They said, go to your parents, go to your mom and dad and say, I'll paint you one painting. You want the dog, you want the house, I'll do you one painting and then we're done. We're done with it. That is my obligation to you. You cannot listen to everybody, listen to nobody. Because each person has to carve their own path. There is no path.
Well, I'm curious, and that's something that I struggle with too. And I was thinking about this the other day. A lot of times when there is that constant negative feedback or seemingly negative feedback, that can certainly come to the forefront. I feel like a lot of those things do stay with you. So I was curious for yourself, Val, and other panels is kind of like both advice for people coming up that want to follow the direction you all have taken in your fields, that want to do that work, but also are not sure if they can make it or don't know if those resources are there, or we talked a lot about opportunities, if those opportunities are going to be available to everyone. What would you all say to kind of the younger folks in your field coming up?
I had an intern for 4 years when I lived in Nashville who went to Nashville Big Picture High School. So they got to intern with someone in their interest field for 2 days a week instead of going to school, which I thought was all, I love that. But she was 14 and wanted to be an artist and came to me every Tuesday and Thursday. And so I would teach her things, but I also didn't paint like she did. And I would try to get her some other points of view as well. But when it would come time to do shows and stuff like that, I would say, I have to go do this. Do you want to come here today and do this? It's hard. She's like, well, look, I'm going to be an artist. I got to know all of it, whether it's good or bad. If I'm going to be poor or rich, I don't care. I'm doing it. And so that attitude, and her mother, they're like, oh, I'm so worried about her. I'm like, she's going to do it. That's what she wants to do. And that's what she's going to do. And she's talented. So it is about carving a path. And I've never gotten used to not knowing what my income's going to be or if I'm going to have any. That's not something I've ever gotten used to. But what I've always done is work towards trying to make it. I mean, I've had to reinvent what I'm doing over and over. When the economy crashed in 2008, that's when Moonbound Girl was born. The mural market just stopped one day, and I'm suddenly living over my means. I didn't know what to do. I had to sell my house. And I thought, I can't be anything else. What in the world would I be if I can't keep doing this? Mm-hmm. And so I got a studio space, terrified. And I thought, I'm going to paint. What am I going to paint? People tell me what to paint. I'm a muralist. They say I want this, and I do it. And so I thought, I'm going to paint what it looks like on the inside of somebody who gets to do what they love. So I painted a little girl. She's faceless, big person-ish, kind of playing guitar, sitting on the moon, hair in the air. And I put it on the easel, and people came in and said, oh my God, that's me. And the next person, that's my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what? Okay, it's everybody. And so I started doing paintings of that girl with her hair in the air with the moon, shooting for the moon thing. And it resonated and it worked. But if it hadn't, I have no idea what I would have done. But I just kept working towards the things that were working. But I agree with you that if somebody can talk you out of it, you're probably not ready or something, because it is scary. It's the scariest thing to not know. But I think if you don't try, you'll never know. And for people that think they can't find what their passion is, we get a lot of that at our shows, or other things about what is your inner passion. And people say, well, I've never really thought about it. And I'm like, I can't even imagine that. But I think it's because they think it is a person, place, or thing, or a sport. And if they're not a dancer or a football player or an athlete or whatever, or a musical person, they think, I don't have a passion. But it's just the thing that gives you the juice. What really fires you up and makes you feel like you all are talking about, the feeling you get. That is it. That's it. And it can be math. I hate math. But I can't imagine my best friend's thing is math. I don't get it. But, that's her thing. And I don't get that, but she probably doesn't get what I do either. But everybody has something, I think, and it can be helping people. It can be, I don't even know. Just it doesn't have to be a specific thing. It's just a feeling, and the more you recognize it, the more you'll focus on it. And I think that's what that's about. But and mine's art.
Yeah. We're going way past time. Am I
Oh,
okay to
sorry.
keep going a little bit? No, it's not you. We. But there is so much to cover. I feel like every question has had 5 or 6 questions in it that I want to hear all of you all speak on.
So the other question I think is a really good one. If you can maybe cover it quickly.
I had a last question, so let's do that one. And I had one I wanted to ask for booking. So
I
yeah.
don't think we gave anybody in the in-person audience a chance to ask a question either, but right, we are running a little late.
And I think, can you all stick around for anyone in the audience?
Sure.
We'll also have the tour of the exhibit this is connected to. But yeah, what's the online
So
question?
the other online question is, how do artists learn the practicalities of art as a career? Marketing, budgeting, sales, etc. And where can you learn these everyday business needs?
So yeah, in just a few minutes, marketing, budgeting, all the business side, taxes. Can anyone
We all
cover that?
learn.
When I was in school, it wasn't even a class. There were books that you could read. But I think universities now, they do have classes that teach that too. So you can take classes now within, in the colleges, it's part of the curriculum. And also books. Yeah.
I'm doing an interview, a virtual interview on 1st of February for folks in Youngstown, Ohio, at the college there, of career. How do you make it? How do you, talk about my career and how I've moved through it for the students. So I think you can probably find ways to, just go to those seminars or get them online, particularly now on the internet. There's so much material out there and ways to talk to people about it. You don't always have to pay $4,000 for the credit hour, and go, but you can find out, online.
I'd say get yourself a mentor.
A mentor.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
And I was-
Get yourself in that program, but I went to seminars and all that, but until I jumped in, I didn't understand bookkeeping. I didn't understand sole proprietorship versus LLC. You just got to jump in, but you can get in trouble. Get yourself a mentor, find somebody who's doing something, anything like you want to do, and offer yourself up.
And I very much see that kind of as that collaborative thing that I had noticed as a transplant to this area, and that we see, we see in this region that willingness to collaborate, the willingness for folks to give up their free time to come up here and answer questions and to work with folks. I would hope that there's kind of that culture of people that are willing to give back, because there is not one answer. There's not, this is the way an artist needs to run their business, or this is the way a musician needs to keep their taxes. It's going to look wildly different, for everyone. So that definitely didn't cover the whole question, but.
We just got another one in too, so I don't know if we'll have time for it. But I'll give you yours first and we can see.
Okay, well, my question was, I wanted to make sure you all had an opportunity to tell everyone how they could get a hold of you. What's the best place to follow you, find information about you. And I wanted to hear from everyone one thing you have, coming up, or that you're excited about that you haven't had a chance to talk about, or haven't had a chance to go into depth as much as you'd like. What are you excited about? What do you've got coming up to self-promote? Because of course that's a big part of the business aspect too. So we'll start on the far end and come back around if that works.
Okay, geez, there was a 2-part question. What was the first question?
Where can people go to find out more about you and follow your work? And what do you have coming up that you're excited about or want to promote?
Okay, well, I have a Facebook page. And you don't have to become my friend. The things that I post to the world and to the public are usually concerts coming up. And so I'll just put that up there for the orchestras and anything that's coming up. And it doesn't even have to be my particular performance. I'll put anything that I think is, I think this is worth going to. Let's put it up there. I also have a website, which is Sherlonda.com, which shows you how rare the name Sherlonda is that I could get. My name without having to put numbers after it. Sherlonda.com. And on my biography page, my bio, at the bottom, I've listed a link to all of the groups I play with. So all you have to do is go down there, click on the link. It'll take you to the Johnson City Symphonies page where you can find out about those concerts. I've got Symphony of the Mountains, the Paramount Chamber Players, just every one of them has a link, and so you can investigate that way. Sure, and it's a very simple website. I just updated it, and those would be the two places I think that I would go to find out things about what's going on. The next thing that's coming up that I'm excited about is the next Johnson City Symphony concert. Two reasons I'm excited about it. One is that it's in the new ETSU Martin Center. And if you don't know about that, it's just this beautiful new performing arts center that's across the way from the ETSU main campus. And simply because of COVID, it's just now starting to ramp up with performances and things there. But the Johnson City Symphony will give its first concert in that hall, and we're very excited about it. And the second reason why I'm excited about it is that our special guests are students from the Science Hill High School, and they will be playing something with us. And so we're very excited about working with the youth of Johnson City. Susan Lambert is the one who's the director, the orchestra director there. So we're excited about that. And the date is February, I think 19th. It's a Saturday evening. And so I'm going to make sure that's right. Or if it's not, I'll let you know later. But I think it's February 19th at 7:30.
I have 3 Facebook pages: Eugene Wolf Music, and Brother Boys. And you can always find what's going on with me on the Eugene Wolf pages, and the Brother Boys. So like I said, we have a new album coming out, our first in 25 years. So I'm very excited to see how it sounds. I know, it sounds great. Oh, it's going to be the best. It's our best album. So, yeah. There's that.
Well, I have Facebook and Instagram, Moonbound Girl. And then I have a Facebook page for my murals, which is Lee Ann Agee Muralist. And I have a brand new website coming up soon, leannageart.com, which has a reality interactive thing on there where you can see the painting in your house, and you can pick all these options. You can get on a phone case, shower curtain. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, really.
And so that's coming up if I ever get everything done. But it's coming up. And so you can look at leannageart.com, but moonboundgirl.com, if you can't remember my name, should take you there too. And it also will have my murals and my Goofy Giraffe line. So that's where to find me.
Sweet. I'm old school. I do a lot of Facebook. I've got my company name is Art Now. So I've got the artnowllc.com that has my professional business public art information, artnowllc.com. And on Facebook, I've got Art Now LLC. And I've got Val Lyle, public artist. And I have a life-size bronze unveiling this fall up in Mountain City, Tennessee. It'll be Fiddlin' Fred Park. So it'll be a life-size figure of a gentleman fiddling. He's a real person from Mountain City, which is actually where one of my ancestors came from, Mountain City. And that'll be the Saturday of Labor Day weekend. we'll have the unveiling for that. And I'm working on that piece in the Johnson County Arts Center in their lobby. I'm creating the piece in the Johnson County Arts Center lobby. And man, Mountain City has a rockin' art scene. In 2019, the population of Johnson County was 2,147, I believe. And their art scene rocks. It rocks. They've got a whole building. They teach classes. I've taught portrait sculpture up there. Go check out Mountain City.
Wow.
Well, as a working artist myself, I need to take the opportunity to self-promote, so I'm going to share it too. RichardGravesArt.com and on Facebook, I go by Sir Pounce, S-E-R Pounce, on Instagram. And the thing that I'm excited about is myself and another local artist, Brett Marcus Cook, are co-hosting art making challenge in February. So we have a prompt list for making new pieces based on those prompts every day of the week, and we're inviting people to play along with us, make art based on the prompts, engage as much or as little as they want with the challenge. But that's on my Instagram. And I wanted to thank you all so much. There's a bunch in this notebook that I was hoping to hear you talk on. There's a lot to go in here. You all are such big inspirations to me with how you've structured your careers and work with arts in the region. Thank you for being here to share your time with all of us today, and for all the people watching online.
So we did have one more question online that I'd like to ask.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, hey, Erica, I'm going to interject really quick first. I will be sending out a survey to everyone who registered and the people online, and I'll include everybody's links in that.
Okay.
So that way you all don't have to try to remember that.
I'm writing everyone else.
Because I was going to do it for you if you didn't. But we do have the links to everybody's website in the chat if you're joining us on Zoom. And if not, like Scotty said, we'll send those out with a survey that goes out to everybody in person or on Zoom. So you'll have access to those when you get home. Just check your email. But that way you remember.
They won't be there when you get home. Sometime in the next couple days.
Keep an eye out for that. We will put all the links in there so that you can follow up with any of our panelists or our fantastic moderator. And also, so our final question is from Tina Daniel, and she says that the arts can play a significant role in shifting perspectives and culture. How do you see your work serving as a force for change? Or do you see your work as a force for change?
Yes. I feel like my one man show, the Book of Memo, like I said, takes a different look than people expect to come from this region. It's got the flavor, it's got everything, but it also allows people to see who we are without putting all of the stereotypes on top of who they think we are. So for my, and also the message of my show opens the door for questions that people struggle with, that I've struggled with, which is why I wrote the show. So I feel like I've already had people talk to me about how it has changed them. And so that.
That's awesome.
We'll take it, whoever wants to jump in.
I'm a member of a group called AlternateRoots.com, and they invite anybody who's creative of any stripe, singer, dancer, songwriter, advocate for the arts, to as a member of that group, I agreed to do some or all or part of my work towards social justice issues. And so I am very deliberate and very purposeful in that. And I would encourage anybody who's interested in using their artwork for change, to look up that group. It's alternateroots.com. It's an organization and they give money to do your work.
Any other thoughts on the culture changing?
Just that it seems like orchestras are becoming more inclusive of playing music by not by just the usual dead composers, but becoming more inclusive of playing music by composers of color, of different women composers. So that way we're changing things. And also, I forgot about one other orchestra I play with, which is the Color of Music Festival Orchestra, which is an orchestra of people of color playing classical music, whereas it's we're playing all kinds of music, really. Just the things that like that are that's what I'm being a part of, and there's more of that happening lately, as far as being more inclusive, music being more inclusive.
I feel like Moonbound Girl is all inclusive. They're all faceless, and it doesn't matter who you are. You can dream big and shoot for the moon and to go for it. So we have that, and we have a little mirror in the back of our book so you can see what you look like with your hair in the air and butterflies. So I feel like that is how we do it with Moonbound Girl, or I do it with Moonbound
Very
Girl.
cool. I'd be curious. I feel like that needs to be a whole other speaker series.
It does.
Just to touch into the kind of the nuance that's there, because that's a great question, Erica. Thank you for putting that out.
So I just couldn't not ask that.
Yeah, absolutely. Are we doing?
We're doing okay on time. I have a few closing statements I'd like to make when you're done, but if you want to wrap up.
Oh, perfect. I think we're at a good spot now. If we want to go and take over.
Well, I would just like to say thank you one more time to the Arts Alliance Mountain Empire, especially Mark Lodwright, for helping us organize this event and recruiting our panelists, and Richard Graves as our wonderful moderator tonight. Again, all of the links will be sent to you with the surveys, so keep your eye on your email for the next few days. If you're on Zoom, they're already in the chat. You can look at it now, and you'll also get that survey. For those of you who are interested in staying for the tour, I'll meet you out in the lobby after this, and we can do a tour of the special exhibit, The Way We Worked. For those of you on Zoom, we posted a link to a virtual tour of the exhibit that you can check out and watch from home. And if anyone is interested in participating in our next speaker series here at the museum, that will be on February 1st. We're going to have Dr. Bill Turner and Dr. Ted Olson talking about African-American history and music in Appalachia. And then also AAME is the parent organization of A Magazine. So if you live locally, I encourage you to pick up a copy of that. The AAME speaker series often is directly related to articles in the magazine, and you can follow us on social media or by reading the magazine to find out more about upcoming AAME speaker series events. Thank you again for coming.
Well, and also everyone here and our panel and Richard, you can't see it because you're not on Zoom, but there's been a lot of praise in the chat, and everyone's enjoying you guys.
Oh, yes, I wanted to read some of those out to you as well. So Joan Boone says this has been a rich sharing and reminder of what each artist does to enrich and bind us in our community. And Suzanne Stark says, thank you for 4 really personal and wonderful takes on artistic work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all
Thanks for
again.
having us.
Thank you.